Welcome to Shadows of Legacy, the channel where we uncover the stories they tried to erase. Today we're journeying deep into the dense, misty swamps and rugged frontiers of Florida, a land that bore witness to a force so formidable, so resilient that few dared to challenge it. We're talking about the Black Seminoles. They weren't born into freedom, they seized it. Enslaved Africans, escaping the brutal plantations of the American South, didn't just run. They were strategists, survivors, and visionaries. They sought refuge not just in the wilderness, but with the Native Seminole tribes who already called that land home. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. This wasn't just about coexisting, it was about forming a powerful resistance. Picture this: two oppressed peoples, one fleeing the chains of slavery, the other fighting to keep their ancestral lands, bound not by blood, but by a shared experience of pain and a common purpose. They forged an alliance unlike anything the world had ever seen. Deep in the untamed wilds of Florida, they built self-governed communities, free havens where no white man ruled and no enslaver dared to tread. These were places of true liberty, carved out of defiance. The U.S. government, threatened by this symbol of black and indigenous power, labeled them rebels, fugitives, a problem to be solved. But what they truly were warriors. The early 1800s brought the onset of the brutal Seminole Wars, a series of conflicts that raged for decades. Throughout these wars, the Black Seminoles stood shoulder to shoulder with their indigenous brothers and sisters. They weren't just followers, they were leaders, advisors, and fierce fighters. They possessed an intimate knowledge of the terrain, turning the swamps and forests into a weapon against the invading forces. While American soldiers were trained for open battlefields in the European style, the Black Seminoles mastered the art of guerrilla warfare. They were ghosts in the wilderness, striking with precision and disappearing back into the cypress groves. They outsmarted and outmaneuvered armies far larger and better equipped than their own. Their fight wasn't for the America that was being built around them. In fact, they were fighting against the fundamental lie that America represented freedom for all. They were living proof that another way was possible. One of the most pivotal figures in this story is John Horse, also known as Gopher John. He wasn't just a warrior, he was a brilliant diplomat, a negotiator, and a leader who commanded respect from both Black and Seminole communities. He spoke multiple languages, including English, Spanish, and several indigenous dialects, which made him an indispensable bridge between different groups. John Horse led war parties, interpreted during treaty negotiations, and ultimately guided his people on an incredible exodus to find lasting freedom. He embodied the spirit of the Black Seminoles, intelligent, adaptable, and absolutely unyielding in the quest for liberty. The American government saw the Black Seminole Alliance as a direct threat to the institution of slavery. Think about it. A thriving community of free Black people, armed and living alongside Native Americans, was a beacon of hope for every enslaved person in the South. This wasn't just a military conflict. It was an ideological one. The U.S. poured immense resources into crushing this resistance, not just to seize Florida's land, but to extinguish the very idea of Black freedom and indigenous sovereignty. The Second Seminole War, in particular, was one of the costliest and longest wars in U.S. history up to that point. The resistance was so effective that the U.S. military resorted to tactics of deception and betrayal. General Thomas Jessup, frustrated by his inability to defeat the Seminoles in open combat, famously declared, "This, you may be assured, is a Negro, not an Indian war." This admission from a top U.S. general reveals the core of the conflict: the fear of Black rebellion. Despite their incredible bravery, the combined pressures of war, starvation, and betrayal took their toll. Many Black Seminoles were captured, killed, or forced to surrender. Under treaties that were often violated, many were forcibly relocated to Indian Territory in what is now Oklahoma, a journey fraught with hardship and death, similar to the Trail of Tears. Even there, their fight wasn't over. Pro-slavery Creek tribes and opportunistic slave catchers tried to re-enslave them, forcing them to once again defend their freedom. But the legacy of the Black Seminoles didn't die in Florida or Oklahoma. It traveled. Led by the indomitable John Horse, a group of Black Seminoles undertook another daring journey, this time south, across Texas and into Mexico. They sought refuge in a country that had abolished slavery. In exchange for land and citizenship, they served as border patrol for the Mexican army, protecting the northern frontier from raids. They became known as Los Mascogos, and their descendants live in Coahuila, Mexico to this day, preserving their unique culture and language. And the story doesn't end there. In a fascinating twist of history, some Black Seminoles later returned to the United States and became some of the most skilled scouts for the U.S. Army. These were the Seminole Negro Indian Scouts. Operating in West Texas, they used their unparalleled tracking and survival skills to protect settlers and patrol the border, the very same skills their ancestors had used to fight against the U.S. military. Despite their decorated service and incredible record, 4 of them were awarded the Medal of Honor. They continued to face persistent racism and were ultimately denied the land and pensions they were promised. The story of the Black Seminoles is a profound saga of rebellion, resilience, unity, and unwavering pride. It's a powerful testament to what happens when oppressed people refuse to be erased, when they choose to define their own destiny. They demonstrated that community can be forged not just from shared heritage, but from shared struggle and a shared dream of freedom. Their history challenges the simple narratives we're often taught. It shows us that the fight for freedom in America has always been complex, multifaceted, and led by many different peoples. The Black Seminoles were never just a footnote. They were a living, breathing example that freedom is never given. It is taken. And those who are willing to fight for it, those who are willing to stand together against impossible odds, they leave behind more than just footprints in the swamp. They leave behind a legacy that continues to inspire. Thank you for joining us on Shadows of Legacy. If this story moved you, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell. It helps us push back against the algorithms and ensures these crucial truths keep rising to the surface. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Peace, love, and power.